everybody, and welcome back to my channel. So this video, I'm going to keep it kind of light. We're going to get in there and just get it going. It's all about ropes and kind of telling the difference between ropes, what comes up when you Google ropes, which rope is best for your piece, what you want to do. I'm just going to kind of talk about literally every single thing that I have personally used in my pieces to create a masterpiece. No, I'm just kidding. But no, for real. I know when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing. And there wasn't much information out there. It was just kind of like, hey, get your rope, do this. And I was like, where do I get it? So first I'm going to talk about the differences in braided 3-strand and single strand cord. So when you Google macrame cord or when you Google cotton rope, what comes up is you have a variety of these little things here and you don't know what to choose from. And some of them are more expensive than others, but you don't know what's you just think rope is rope, because that's what I thought too. So for braided rope, I have used this in several of my pieces. It's not my favorite to use, but I mean, it gets the job done. I'm gonna give you some examples of braided cord that I know of that I have used, and that is the Bonnie's Craft Cord. You can get it for $8 at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. Then there's the clothesline at Walmart that I use. It is a braided cord as well. So if you're wanting a piece that has a whole lot of fringe, it's going to be a lot harder to comb out that braided cord than it is a single strand or a 3-strand cord. So, you know, if you're just wanting something that doesn't unravel too much, it might unravel just a little bit as you go. If you're just wanting like a full-blown tapestry kind of piece, this probably might work well for you because it'll kind of hold together a little bit better than the other two. Now, there is 100% regular just cotton rope that is braided as well. It's not just those two. That's just what I've worked with. So braided cord, that's essentially, it's just kind of locked together and it doesn't unravel as easy. Now we got our 3-strand cord. Now this cord to me is a little bit tougher. You know, when you're trying to make knots and everything, it's a little bit more stiff, and so it's not as soft and like yarn. You know how yarn, it's just really soft when you like make knots and everything, the knot kind of shrinks in. This one, it's really hard to maneuver. I'm like making a square knot over here. Now, you can leave it as is and just macrame with the 3 strands like that, or if you want 3 separate single strands, you can unravel them, and it takes forever. I have tried and I gave up. I was like, nope. And I have a lot of patience when it comes to my pieces, but that one I gave up on. So if you're wanting a piece that will fringe beautifully at the bottom without any help at all, this is not for you. You will have to kind of unravel it as you go and brush it out. It's a lot easier than the braided in my opinion, but it's just kind of whatever you're going for. It will unravel as you go, but not as much as a single strand would and not as much as a braided cord would. So whatever you want, just whatever you want to do. The only 3-strand cord that I have personally used is the natural cord from Hobby Lobby. I've used it in several of my pieces, but it is a little bit stiffer to work with, and it does unravel, but that's the only one that I have experience with, so I don't know if every brand is like that. But from my experience, it's not my favorite to work with, but it's the only cotton rope that I can get my hands on without having to order it online. I don't have any other craft stores near me other than Hobby Lobby and Michael's, and neither of them have inexpensive cotton rope except for this one, and so that's what I've just kind of been stuck with working with. And it's not terrible, but it's just the 3-strand isn't my favorite. Then we're left with the single strand, which is personally my favorite, but I think it's also more so my style because I do like the really fringy look. I just haven't really been able to make any pieces like that because I don't have that 100% cotton cord, single strand, easy to use, because you have to order it online, or at least I do, just because I don't have it near me. And ordering online, like, I like to order online, but at the same time, I'm less likely to do it because I don't know, it's just different than physically committing and going out to a store and seeing it in my buggy. I'm like, okay, yes, I can buy this right now, but if I'm online, I'm like, do I really need to spend that money right now? So that is pretty much the differences between those. So depending on how you want your piece to look, if you want it fringy, less fringy, if you want it symmetrical, if you want it to look really structured, I think the 3-cord is really nice because it does give you those really strong knots that aren't going to move and bend as you get further down, and you know you're taking those ropes and tying them into something else. It's not really going to affect it, tighten it, loosen it, or anything. So it's so with the 3-strand, I think it's a little bit more structured. So that's pretty much just all I have to say about that. That's all I gotta say about that. Did you know that Forrest Gump was the most popular movie in the year that I was born? Alabama. Real quick, I'm gonna talk about the differences in like what the rope is made out of and how it's gonna affect the way your piece looks. So obviously cotton is pretty popular right now. It makes really beautiful natural looking pieces. It's easier to work with and it's a lot softer. It fringes beautifully. So cotton is pretty much the way to go as of now. Then you have the polyester. So you can get these synthetic fibers in there. You can knot with them fine. You can knot with them just fine, but they don't make the prettiest of pieces just because when you get the synthetic fibers, there's typically like a tube of polypropylene, I think is how you say it. Polypropylene, I think. But it's like a tube going down the middle of the outside of the rope, and so it doesn't fringe. It just fluffs out. And so if you're wanting that fringy look, it won't work. But I've made several of my pieces out of this, and I love the way it looks anyway. So it really just depends on what you're going for, honestly. Then you run into nylon. It's just kind of got that shimmery look to it. So if you want that, that's cool. It's not gonna be as soft as cotton or the polyester ones. But you can knot with pretty much anything. It just depends on what look you want to achieve. Okay, moving along from those, I'm just gonna touch on the other types of ropes that I have used other than like cotton rope. The first one being yarn. Yarn is obviously the cheapest. You've already probably got it laying around in your house somewhere, and you can use it for other things than just macrameing. So for a beginner, it is a little bit harder to learn the knots with. If you already know how to do the knots, great. If you already know what to look for, make sure that you're doing them correctly. But for yarn, since it is just so soft, the knots when they develop are they're a lot smaller and harder to see. When you make the knot, it is going to shrink just because you can move that yarn so easily. And so you're going to have, if you want a bigger piece, it's going to take a whole lot more time just because the yarn is just so thin. But they do make beautiful pieces. I use yarn in my pieces all the time. Another one is jute or sisal, I think is how you say it. And those were pretty popular back in the 70s. They've just kind of gone out of style since the more modern macrame has come along, but it doesn't mean that you can't use it. That's what you saw most. Plant holders were kind of used, and it's cheap as well. The only thing with it can get a little hairy, you know, like the jute is like fringy, like pokey. And then it's also really stiff. So it's kind of like that 3-string cord in a sense. When you make a knot, it can kind of get a little bendy and have like spaces in between it. So you have to pull really tightly with it, which also makes for a lot more knots to achieve a piece. The tighter they are, the more that you're going to have to do to get to a desired length. They do make beautiful pieces. It's just that you're going to have that brown kind of natural color rather than that cotton look. You can also use paracord. You can use literally anything that you can. You got your twine. I love to use my twine. I've made the little mini plant hangers with these. I've made some wall hangings with these. I think I pretty much touched on everything. I don't know if I forgot something. I'm sorry. The only other thing I can think of right now would be the different like size millimeters. And so you've got, 4 millimeter, 6 millimeter, 5 millimeter, 5.5 millimeter. Like there's different, but that's just the width of the rope. And so the higher the width, the bigger the knots will be, obviously. This is the smallest one that I have, which is this twine, and it's pretty tiny, but if you want to get this, but you don't want your knot to be this small, you can double up the piece. And so now you've doubled up the size, or you can even triple up the size. And so now you would use this as one rope. Even though there's 4 right here, you would act like it was 1. That's pretty much all I can think of. I hope I touched on everything. If I didn't, y'all let me know down below, and I hope I can try to answer something. I'm not the best macrameer out there, but it's just what I've learned as I've been doing this for a couple of years now. And I just wanted to share with you because these are the same questions that I had, and I just kind of had to figure it out as I went. If you're a beginner, if you can splurge, get the cotton rope, but if you can't, you have plenty of other options. You've got clothesline, you've got twine, you have got yarn, everything. You've got so many endless possibilities out there, so just be an artist and make it and have a good time with it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I kind of explained myself well. I don't really know. I'm gonna have to rewatch this and be like, what did you say that for? But anyways, I hope y'all have a great rest of your day, and God bless.